Hello everybody, I'm Orange MC, and welcome back to Super Voxel Party 2.0. And today in this video, I want to be going over the board editor, how to use it, and all of the features that it has to offer. This is probably going to be a fairly technical and lengthy video, so this will be split up into chapters, and there will also be timestamps down below that you can use to quickly navigate between different sections. First of all, what is the board editor? The board editor is a newly added feature to Super Voxel Party 2.0 that allows you, the players, the ability to create your own custom boards and then play on them. Unfortunately, due to the limitations of Minecraft, you won't be able to share and upload your boards easily. The only really good way you can do this is by hosting a server that you can then let other people join. Now, before I get started, there's just one thing I want to show you in the lobby. So if you come over here, back to where you first spawn in, you have this Hall of Updates area. You can then navigate to the board editor demo area down these stairs, and this will take you to a long hallway that showcases every tool in the board editor. So like for here we have the player spawns. Over here we've got some miscellaneous things of how to navigate the different menus of the board editor. We have some other different barrels with items in them. You can look at these for reference, and these will help give you an idea of how to set things up if you forget. Or you can just watch this video like you're doing now. Let's just skip looking over this, and I'll show you how to use each of these in depth in the board editor. So, to access the board editor, you're going to come over here into the main lobby. You're going to go to the selector panel here and right-click the sign that says board editor. Now, to select the actual board you want to edit, you go over here to the board selector panel, right-click on the sign here, and then you can either select on one of the 8 boards here, or you can click this arrow to see more boards. And so far we have 16 actual boards in the game, which are all editable, mind you, so you can edit these in board editor if you really wanted to, but a lot of these have custom events that you will not be able to change. And we have 8 empty slots that you can use to start from scratch from. So before showing you that, I want to go over quickly Frostbite Falls. So Frostbite Falls was the first board that I made for Super Voxel Party Maker a couple years ago, and this board was specifically designed for the board editor. So everything you see here was all done using the board editor. There's no custom events or custom mechanics or anything like that. So if you want to see how something has been implemented, you can come over to Frostbite Falls and you'll be able to find it. Like for instance, this right here is a random outcome event, so if you want to see how this is set up, you can just go underneath it and look in the barrel. With that out of the way, I'm now going to exit board editor mode. We'll go back to the board selector panel over here. We will select template 1 so we can start from scratch. And then one thing you can do to get back to that panel over there a little bit quicker is you can just hit the start game sign, and this will teleport you right here without having to walk back and forth. And so now we can click the start sign here, and this will start the board editor mode for template 1. So first of all, some things to mention here is that you'll notice a little collection of various different command blocks or structure blocks or what have you here. So right here in this command block we have the item chest sound. So if we go in here, this is just a play sound command that is run every time a player opens an item chest for the first time on the board. So to change the sound here, you just simply need to specify which sound you want here, and then you can, I guess if you wanted to, you can change what channel it's being played in, but all of our sounds are being played through the voice channel, and all of our custom music is being played through the records and music discs channel. This right here is how you set the board name, and this command block is here to respawn this armor stand if you were to accidentally break it like this. So to respawn it, I can just activate this command block and that'll bring it back, and this is already set up to have the template 1 name. But when you want to rename your board, what you can do is you can go to this barrel with a bunch of name tags in it, just grab a stack out, throw it in here, and then you can do rename the name tag to like my board name. And then you can click on the armor stand, and you're not going to visually see it change, but when you leave the board editor, it'll be changed, and I'll show you that in just a second. And then this right here, this isn't supposed to say board name, it's supposed to say star seller, but this is how you can customize the star NPC that gets spawned if you're using the standard star system. So I can go ahead and load this here. You'll want to make sure entities is on. And here we have an armor stand, and this is just my skin here. What you can do now is you can just modify this however you want. You can put different armor on there, you can put a different head, things in the arms and what have you. Whenever you're done modifying this, though, you need to make sure you go back to save mode here and then click save. Otherwise, your changes aren't going to be saved, and it'll just be back to whatever the default is, which is this right here. So finally, here we have the board music barrel, and inside of here are all 16 board music tracks. Now, to best demonstrate this, I'm going to actually leave board editor mode. So to leave board editor mode, you open your inventory and put this exit editor in your offhand, so you can just hit the F key when looking at it, and that'll get you out of here. And so to actually turn on music, I'll right-click this side, enable the music, and then I will go back into board editor mode. And now, to better demonstrate the board music here, is if I open this up, by default, it's just going to play the Grand Canal track. And if you remove it, it's just set to always play that. But if you want to play one of the other tracks, like for example, maybe you want to play Skyrule, you can just drop the music disc in here, and it'll dynamically update to Skyrule. So we can take that one out, and when you remove it, it'll just default back to Grand Canal. So let's go back to Frostbite Falls maybe, and then we can just kind of hear that one for a minute. Now, something cool about this that I created is that over here we have a pitch setter. So you can change the blocks here, and they can be 0 to 20, and this will change the pitch of the track. So a higher value means the song is going to be at a higher pitch, which means the song will play faster. A lower value means the song will be at a lower pitch, and the song will play slower. So if I take all of these out, you're going to hear the track get really low in pitch and very slow. When I put that back in, it goes back to normal. And if I put anything over 20 in, it'll just default to 20. And now you can see here that it's very fast, very rapid. So we'll just set that back to 10 for default. And then for now, we'll just set that back to Grand Canal. So that's how you can dynamically change the board music for your boards. And as I mentioned earlier, I should have showed this in lobby a minute ago, but I had renamed the board here, so let's exit editor again. And now when we go back to the board selector panel, we call it my board name, and here we see now it says my board name instead of template 1. So we can reselect that. And when you select a board, you'll see here that it says text. That is for the board description, and so that's a little bit more tricky to set up. So what you want to do to set that up is just go game mode spectator and come underneath the spawn here, and you're going to see a whole bunch of armor stands. You can ignore all of these. These are unimportant. What you're going to want to modify is this lectern right here. So game mode creative. If I open up this lectern here, this is where you can see all of the board descriptions, or board template descriptions. So to edit it, you just take the book out. You'll want to navigate to the page that you want to edit. So because we're doing template 1, it's going to be page 17. That's the first one. So right now it says text, but we'll just change this to say my board's description. We hit done, put it back in, and then we can fly back out of here. Now when we select our board again, it'll say my board name selected and then my board's description. So that's how you change that for the boards. I know it's a little bit... It's not as nice as being able to do it in the board editor, but I wanted to give players the freedom to do that. Now that I've gone over all the basics, I now want to go into detail on all the different tools and things that you can do with the board editor. So to start, let's go back into template 1. And I want to start by going over this set of tools here, which is the Spaces tab. And you can navigate different tabs using this sidebar here. So if I wanted to go to the events, I just hit F to put that in my offhand. Now I can see the events. If I wanted to go back to Spaces, I put that in my offhand to go back to Spaces. And then there's this handy little blocks one, which will just save a bunch of blocks that you were building with. So when you exit the editor and rejoin it, you can just quickly get the blocks back you were using to build with. So we'll go back to Spaces, and the first thing I want to go over is this Get Items thing. So when you put this in your offhand, it's going to spawn a barrel at your location, which has all of the items in it. These are what you'll use to set up various different events or custom item shops. So this is very handy to have. We won't use it right now, but we'll use it in a little bit, so I'll leave it there. So the first set of tools I want to go over is the player spawns. So there's 4 of these, 1 for each player. And to simply set where you want your players to spawn, let's just grab some diamond blocks or something to use. So let's say we want the players to all spawn on these little diamond blocks here. You can just simply place the armor stand down where you want them to spawn. And then when you start the game, that's where the player will spawn. I should note that the rotation of these armor stands is important. So because the armor stand's actually technically looking this, even though I placed it this way, it's actually going to be looking at me when I place it, so it's really facing this way. So when I load into the board, if I were to play it, I'd be teleported looking here, facing this way. And to demonstrate that, we'll hit Exit Editor, and this time, we're going to right-click the sign that says Play Mode over here, and now we'll actually have to join the players and click Start. We then select the team color we want. I'll just use red. As you can see, it spawns an armor stand there, and then it teleports me to that space. So we'll go ahead and leave. Okay, so now we'll go back to Board Editor, and one thing I want to mention is that it's important that you only have one for each player. So don't grab out some of these and then start placing like 10 million player one spawns, because that's definitely going to break stuff. It's going to spawn a player one armor stand all of these locations, then it'll probably randomly select one that you'll spawn at. And also make sure that you have one for each player. So right now I don't have one for player one, so if I exit the editor, go back to play mode, you'll see what's going to happen now is that because there's no player one, it's just going to spawn me in the middle of the sky and I'll just fall wherever I am. And that's where I'll start. So we don't want that to happen to any players, so make sure you have one for each player. So I'll go ahead and replace that with another player one armor stand. And so the next set of tools I want to go over is the item shop, or the item chest, and then the item shop. So there's only one thing for the item chest, but there's two for the item shop. So the way the item chest works is that when you're playing on a board, item spaces are denoted by a gray concrete ring like this with a green block in the middle. That's where you get a free item every time you pass it. And to specify where you want item chest to be, you just simply put an armor stand down and you're good to go. When you walk over this space, you'll get an item. For the item shop, we're going to use magenta concrete with a magenta glazed terracotta, because item shops on our boards are denoted with this magenta arrow with a glazed magenta terracotta block here. And so to set up a spawn item shop, you just simply put it in the middle of the 3x3 area here. So like the 3x3 is this location here, not where the tail of the arrow is. And that's all you have to do to set up an item shop. But the custom item shops are a little bit more tricky to deal with, because you actually have to do some setup for them. So to use that, you just place the spawn custom item shop, and you'll see a set of barrels is now placed underneath it. These are actually how you can set up the custom pools for the item shops. So to set this up, what you're going to want to do is this top row here, slots 1 through 9, are where you put the items you want to appear in the pool. Next, the row behind or below it is where you set the cost for each item, and the cost can range from 1 to 64. And to set the cost, you simply put pink wool in here, and the stack size of the wool is the associated cost. So right here, this is 5. There's 5 blocks here, so that means it's going to cost 5 coins. But over here we have the custom apple. There's 10 pink wool in this stack, so that means it's going to cost 10 coins. One thing to note, though, is that when setting up custom pools, you should not skip them. Do them in numerical order. So if I were to skip number 2, now we're to set up pool number 3 instead, there's going to be some issues, and I'll show that in a minute. So let's actually set up some item pools now. So this one's set up by default just to kind of show you what you can do and how it should look like, but the rest of them are empty. So to set them up, let's just use this items barrel that we spawned earlier, and let's just grab out some items. So maybe we'll want to use the double berries, and I don't know, maybe a phantom and like an alley thief. And one thing that's important to know is that you can't, if you middle mouse click on an item, it'll duplicate it. So if you only want to spawn in one barrel, not have to keep spawning them in, if you just middle click the item, it'll give you it while keeping it in the barrel. So now, like I said a minute ago, we want to set these up in numerical order, but I'm going to show you what happens when you don't. So let's just say I set up these items in here. We'll now need to grab some pink wool, so using that middle click feature, we can just copy this stack of items, and it'll give us a stack here. Now we can set our items. Let's just say this is 1, maybe 2, I don't know, maybe 6, 8, and then 47, because why not? So now what we'll do is let's just grab out some white concrete. There it is. We'll just set up a little path here. And let's actually, just to make things simple, let's break our player 1 spawn armor stand. Grab a new one from in here, and we'll just place it at the beginning of this path, and we'll just build it out a little bit so we don't die when we spawn in. Okay, we'll go back into play mode, and we'll show the custom item shop. And I'm actually going to start by showing you a different bug that I forgot to mention a little bit ago, and that is if you have 2 item shops or anything with an armor stand too close together, so item shops, equipment shops, events, a glitch will happen where you just kind of get stuck here and you can't click anything here in chat and nothing will happen. So what you have to do to fix that is you need to make sure that whenever you're placing an armor stand down for one of these types of spaces, yeah, as you can see, like now it's like glitching out and stuff. You need to make sure you place them 7 blocks apart. What I can just do is I can simply just break this item shop, and now that'll fix this one because there's no item shop within 7 blocks of it. Okay, so now that the item shop is going to be working, we can click yes to do the item pool. So we got the first item pool that was set up by default, but if we keep going on and off of it, eventually you're going to see this, invalid item shop ID 2. And the reason why that message is displayed is because we skipped setting this item pool up here. So even though we set up an item pool 3, there's nothing in pool 2. So how the code looks at it is that 2 out of the 9 barrels are set up. So the way that it randomizes it is that it'll either be barrel 1 or barrel 2, but barrel 2 has nothing in it, so we get that invalid ID that we just saw. So if I go ahead and go back to adventure mode, leave board editor, we can go remedy that by just moving all the items to the second barrel, and that'll fix the issue. So one easy way to do that is I can just look at this barrel that we set up for pool 3, and I can just type the /clone command, and I'll do the first 3 coordinates twice because that specifies one corner of the region and the other corner of the region, but this is just a single block. And then I'll specify where I want it to be cloned to, and I'll just hit this. Now we'll see that it gets cloned to here. It is labeled, the barrel is labeled pool 3, but that doesn't matter. And now we also have this pool here, and let's make this one different just so we know that it's different. Let's just make some weird coin costs. So now exiting editor, rolling the dice, we can now see that the barrel will be fixed. So we got the first pool again. We got the middle pool this time, so we can see that it worked. And then let's see if we can get the final pool. Nope, we got the middle pool again. There we go, we got the final pool. So you can see that it all works now. And each pool here has an equal chance of being pulled from. So in this case, there's a 1 in 3 chance of getting barrel 1, 1 in 3 chance of getting barrel 2, and 1 in 3 chance of getting barrel 3. The more barrels you have, that's just going to split the odds depending on how many barrels you have. Okay, so the next set of things I want to go over is the spawn TP detector. So this is a handy little armor stand that you can place down, and let's just stick it over here. When you place it down, it's going to spawn a barrel under it where you can configure TP. So what this does is the TP detector is when you get within range of it, it will teleport you to the specified coordinates in here. And yes, I do know that you can easily just stick a command block under here and just pop a pressure plate on it, and that function the exact same way, and just throw a TP command in here, but I didn't want players to have to use TP commands or command blocks in general, so I created this here to fix that problem. And so how you use this is first you want to specify what coordinate you want the player to go to. So for example, let's just say maybe they get teleported back to here. So I'm just going to break the player 1 armor stand. I'll grab a new one to just put back down here where we had it. And now to get the coordinates of this, you could just type in /set block and then hit tab 3 times, and that'll give you the coordinates of the block you're looking at. I'll go ahead and just put those in chat. And so now if we want to teleport the player to those coordinates, first of all, I'm going to clear out my inventory. We have to use the wool in this barrel to do so. So we have a 1 through 9, or 1 through 9, and then a 0, and then a -1 if the coordinate's negative. So how this works is that the first coordinate is 899, so that would be the x coordinate up here. This top row is the x coordinate. So let's just grab out this wool. And so we have our 8 here, and we have our 9 here, so we need another 9, so put that there. The second coordinate was 55, so the y value goes in this middle, so let's look for our 55, which is the green wool here. And then our bottom coordinate, 758, so let's go, and that's our z coordinate in the barrel here, so 7, 5, 8. So now this barrel has been set up, and none of our coordinates are negative, so we don't need the black wool in this right column. If your coordinate was negative, then you would put this in in the corresponding negative spot to make that coordinate negative. So now that this is set up, when we go back to test it in-game, it'll teleport us back to these coordinates over here. Now one thing to mention is, like like the armor stands here for the player spawns, the rotation of this armor stand matters. So because we have it looking at me, what's going to happen is when we use this, it's actually going to teleport me to those coordinates, but facing this direction. So if you want to change the direction it's going to go to, let's go ahead and grab our TP detector again, break it, and place it this way, so now it's going to be looking this way. So exiting editor. So you'll see that once I get close to it, it'll now teleport me to it within range. Oh, and actually, it looks like I got it backwards. Okay, so as we saw there, it looks like I actually got the armor stand backwards in this case. So if I break the TP detector, so the way they're going to be facing when they place it down is the way you're looking. So because I'm looking north right now, that's the way I'm going to be looking when I get teleported. But if I re-break this and place it this way like we did, this is actually going to have us facing south. So if I go back and place this correctly now, okay, so now we'll go back up to our little platform, and now we'll see that when I walk onto it, it'll teleport me facing the right direction. Okay, so the next set of tools I want to go over is the multi-star, stock star, and all of the actual spaces themselves. So before I go over the stars, I want to go over each space here. So I'm just going to grab them down and show you how to spawn them. So to spawn a space, you just use this corresponding spawn egg and just right-click on the ground, and it'll replace a 3x3 area of that space. So we can put a blue space there, red space here, lucky space, unlucky space, dual space, event space, and chance time. So these are all 7 of what we call the activated spaces. And what that means is that when a player walks over it, their space count will be reduced. And if they land on one of these, some sort of event or effect will happen. So blues give 3 coins, red takes 3 coins, lucky does a lucky event where you can get coins, stars, or items, unlucky does the inverse of that where you lose coins, items, or stars, duel will initiate a duel with another player where you can bet for coins or stars and the winner gets whatever was bet. An event will activate a board-specific event or one of the board editor events that we'll be covering later. And the chance time will activate the chance time event, which causes chaos like trading coins, stars, or coins and stars. And so now that we got some demo spaces placed down, what we can do is I can now talk about how to use the star system. So the way the star spawn multi-star system works is that this star is kind of like your standard traditional star that most boards currently use. And how it works is that wherever you want a star spawn, you just place it in the middle of a 3x3 space. So right now we've got it set up so we can have 3. Let's do another one. I don't think they work on event spaces. So now we've got 4 possible star spawns on this pretty basic board. The rotation of these armor stands does matter. So where it's looking, right here is where the star NPC seller is going to be spawned. But if I rotate the one on this red space over here, now the star NPC seller is going to be over here. If I rotate the one on the unlucky space, it'll now be over here, and so on. And these spawn multi-stars can be placed on any space except for chance time and events. But they can be placed on blue, red, lucky, unlucky, and dual. And to set up the custom text, let's actually build up a little thing here. To set up the custom text, you'll see that when you place a star space down, a book and lectern is placed underneath it. And so to change the text, we can grab that book out. This is the text that's displayed when you get to the star. So would you like to buy a star? This is the text when you buy a star. This is the text that's displayed if you don't have enough coins to buy a star. And this is where you specify the name of the star seller NPC. Okay, so I got rid of all the stars, and now I want to tell you kind of the main distinction between the spawn multi-star and the spawn stock star. So like we previously did, the multi-star must be in the middle of an actual activated space, and you must have more than at least 2 or more of them on your board. But the stock star works a little bit differently in that you don't actually place this on a space. You can place this wherever you want the stock star to be. So we'll just place it here in this area. It does not have to be a space, or it can't be a space. And like the normal stocks, or like the multi-star, it'll also place a book and lectern where you can specify the text and the name. But this one works differently in that it also spawns a barrel underneath it. So the way the stock star works is that it has a max stock, meaning that you can buy multiple stars at once. It's also set up to have different star value costs. So as we can see here in this barrel, the stock is 10, and then we have 8 different pools, 5, 10, 15, 20, 20, 25, 30, and 35. And so to set this barrel up, what you want to do is first set the max stock, and so you'll put orange wool in here. The size of the stack of orange wool equates to what the max stock is, so it can be as low as 1 and as high as 64. Right now it's just 10. And then you can set up up to 8 different price values for it. And so to do that, you just use yellow wool, and the stack size of the yellow wool equals the price of the star. Now, something unique about this barrel is that, like you see on this last one, you can actually remove the glass here and make the star cost more than 64 coins. So in this case, it can cost as little as 1 or as max as 128 if you put a stack of wool here and then a second stack of wool there. So now that'll make it 128 coins. Why you would want to do that, I don't know, but you have the ability to do that if you want to. Finally, we have the equipment spaces. So we have 2 here to show off. We have the auto equipper, which works like an item chest, but for equipment. And then we have this equipment shop, which looks like works like an item shop, but is for equipment. And the way these spaces are denoted is with blue concrete and magenta glazed terracotta. So let's just go ahead and build one out over here a little ways from that. It has to be more than 7 blocks away, otherwise it'll cause some issues like we discussed earlier. And these ones are just a blue arrow with one of these terracottas at the front. And to set up the equipment shop, you just put that in the middle and you're done. There's nothing to set up here, that's it. For the actual auto equipper space, so like the equipment chest, you just set up a gray ring like that and put a blue concrete in the middle, and you put that down wherever you want it, and that's set up too. So the auto equipper will give you a random piece of equipment you don't own when you go to it, and then the equipment shop will let you buy 1 piece of equipment that you don't own for 5 coins each. Okay, so now that we've covered all the spaces, I want to go over all of the different events. So, to navigate between tabs, you just simply put the one you want to go to in your offhand, and it'll swap to that menu. One thing I didn't mention before is that this is multiplayer compatible, in that if I swap to the spaces tab, whoever else is in multiplayer on the board editor with me will still be able to access whatever they're doing, and their inventory is not going to get changed when I change mine. So now going to the events tab, we have 6 different events that you can set up. We have the timed event, mob fight event, random TP event, specified TP event, random outcome event, and bank event. There's also a couple of other things down here. So this is a roadblock passable event, which is strictly a passable event only. And we have the passable event detector and the forced passable event detector, and we'll get into those in just a second. So the way the events are set up is they have 2 different versions. They have a activated version when you land on a green event space, or they have a passable version where these spaces are denoted with black concrete with a yellow concrete in the middle. So these ones, passables, will look like this, and an activated one will look like this. And so the difference between it is that an activated event, you have to physically end your turn on the space to trigger it, but a passable one, you can just simply walk onto the space and do the event. Okay, so the first event I'm going to be going over is the timed event. So this one has 3 corresponding armor stands for it to make it work, and this is the most customizable event out of all 6 of them. And so when you're setting up an event, the first thing you need to do is decide whether it's a passable event or activated event. In this case, we're going to make it an activated event, so we're going to want to spawn an event space here. And then, actually, we're going to spawn this a little bit higher because there's going to be some stuff placed underneath this space that we need to have access to, and it's easier to do it when you're flying around. So we'll place this here, and now we can see that there's a set of barrels and a lectern down here. So to set up the custom text for the event, you can modify this barrel here. So this is the first text when starting the event. This is the text for if you beat the event. And this is the text for if you lose the event. There's also 2 barrels here. This top barrel controls the timed event rewards and the timer that you have, whereas the bottom one is the punishments. And how that works is that if you win the event, you'll get one of the randomly specified rewards, but if you lose the event, you'll get one of the specified punishments. And yes, you can still get positive outcomes from the punishments. I just wanted to give players the freedom to do whatever they wanted, so realistically you probably would never give them something for losing, but you have that option to do so. So to set up this event, first we want to set up how much time they have. And so we do that in this 3rd row 2nd slot down here. We just set a bunch of white wool in here, and the stack size of the white wool is how long you'll have. The lowest you can have, I guess, is technically 1 second, and the max you can have is 64 seconds. Then, to specify the reward pool, you simply just put the corresponding rewards in any of these spots in the top 2 rows, or these empty slots down here on the 3rd row. The possible rewards can be plus spaces, minus spaces, plus stars, minus stars, plus coins, minus coins, a new location, lose items, nothing, lose turns, or any of the 16 possible items from the item barrel that we looked at earlier. And like I've mentioned a bunch before, the stack size of each of these is how much you'll be rewarded. So in this case, the plus spaces will give me 5 because the stack size is 5. This negative coins here will give me minus 15 because the stack size is 15. And then the items cannot be stacked, but if you want items to have a higher chance than others, you can just simply put that item in here multiple times. So now there's 3 dash apples, but only 1 of each of these other items, so you have a higher chance to get a dash apple than you do these. One thing to mention is that if you want to have a lot of the same reward, so like a bunch of plus spaces that are the same, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to grab those out, grab an anvil, and rename them. So this will be like plus 5 spaces 1. We'll duplicate that and do plus 5 spaces 2. And so when we go back in here, we have plus 5 spaces 1, and let's put 5 in here for plus 5 spaces 2. So now we have 2 chances to get plus 5 spaces. Now, the reason why we needed to rename those, and this will go for all events that you can customize like this, not specific to this one, is that the way the reward barrel works is that when it generates a word, it breaks the barrel and throws all the items on the ground. So if your plus 2, plus 5 space pools were named the same, these 2 things would stack up and actually become plus 10 spaces and not 5 spaces. But by renaming them differently, they don't stack up, and now we have 2 outcomes here for that. And this goes for everything in here except for the new location, lose items, and nothing. The stack size of these only needs to be 1, increasing it more does nothing. And so that's how you specify the rewards and punishments and timer for the event. The next thing you need to do is actually specify where you want the player to start the event, and use this spawn of timed event start armor stand, and you simply just place that down where you want them to start. And like I said, rotation matters, so because the armor stand's looking at me, they're going to spawn into the event looking this way, which is north. Now we need to specify where they end the event, so we can just build a path of some sort. I'll just make a straight line, and then we just place this here. When they reach this armor stand, the event will end. And the reason why I set this as the most customizable event is because not only do you have a ton of different rewards in here that you can use and punishments that you can set up, you also have the freedom to set up any kind of obstacle course or anything in between the start and end points. So in this case, it's just a straight line, but in Frostbite Falls, for example, I did like a parkour course that you have to do in the time limit. But basically, the creativity is endless. You can do whatever you want. You could do like some custom redstone obstacle course thing in here or whatever you want. Okay, so the other very customizable event is the mob fight event. And this works fairly similarly to the timed event in that to first set up the event, you put the event in the middle of the 3x3 activated event space, and then a whole ton of stuff is spawned underneath the space. And so the way this one is set up is that, again, you'll have your barrel or your book here where you can set the text for the event. So you got your start text, your win text, and your lose text. Then we have these 3 barrels here, what you modify the event with. And this last barrel here is just a list of all the compatible mobs that you can use in the event. So if the spawn egg for the thing you want to spawn in the event is not in here, it will not be compatible to the event. You can only use one of these ones here. So to set up the mob fight event, you first work your way down the barrels. So you first set up the mobs, their gear, and the player and their gear. And so what you do is you first pick the spawn egg you want. In this case, we have it defaulted to zombies. And again, the stack size determines how many mobs are going to be spawned. So right now, this will only spawn 2. But if I were to do 64, now you got to fight 64 zombies. That'd be pretty tough. Directly below that is mob size. So some mobs, mainly zombies, have different sizes. So you have 1 for a baby, 2 for normal, 3 for giant. So if I set this to 1, now this is going to spawn 64 baby zombies, which, yeah, good luck fighting those, unless you have like a 1 shot and the right sword or something. And if I were to put a 3 in here, this will spawn giant zombies, although I'm pretty sure they don't have any AI still, so that's just going to do nothing, but it's there for you to use anyway. So we'll just take this back down to 2 and 2. And so you can also give your mobs gear. And to do that, you use these slots right here. So the first slot is where you give them a weapon. And the next 4 slots is where you can give them armor. And you can put enchantments and things like that on these armors, and that will be applied to the mob. The same thing goes for the player. So down directly below the mob equipment is where you can set up the player equipment, and the same thing happens. You can put custom enchantment, well, maybe not custom enchantments, but you can put enchantments and other things on the gear here, and the player will get those enchantments when the game or the event starts. And just like we did with the timed event, you have your mob fight reward pool, and this one has all the way up to this slot right here. So you have 24 different possible outcomes, and it's set up the exact same way. It has the exact same rewards, except it does not have the new location. So meaning if you beat this event, you will not be teleported to a new location. If you win, that's only exclusive to the timed event. But the other rewards are the exact same. They use the exact same wool coloring, and you can also use items in here as well. And down below that is the mob fight punishments. It's the exact same as well. These are set up exactly the same across all the events that use them. So now, just like the timed event, we need to specify where the players start. So you'll use the spawn mob fight event start armor stand. And like I said, rotation is important, so they'll be facing this way when you get spawned in. And then you need to also specify where you want the mobs to spawn. So we'll place this here. So if I were to start this event, I spawn here, and the mobs would spawn here. And then you can build any kind of arena you want in between. And if you win, you get the reward. If you lose, you get the punishment. So the next event I'm going to demonstrate is actually better as a passable event. And so there is no spawn egg to get the right passable event color code. So what you have to do is you'll have to just manually build it, but it's a black ring with a yellow concrete in the middle. And so now we have the random TP event. And the way this works is that you'll place this down where you want the event to be triggered from. And in this case, it's a passable event. And a lectern will be placed underneath the space. And again, this has text in it. So when you trigger this event, it just has one line text saying you were teleported. Where are they teleported to? Well, that's up to you to decide. So what you can do is that you can use the spawn random TP location and just place them wherever you want a player to get teleported to. And rotation matters. So now I have like a ton of these. The player will randomly be teleported to one of them when they trigger this event. And as a passable event, every time you walk over this, it's just going to randomly teleport you to one of these. If it was an activated one, you'd have to end your turn here, then it'll teleport you to a random one. So I went ahead and kind of reset this here, but one thing I forgot to mention is that if you want to use an event as a passable event, there's a little bit extra work you'll have to do as well. So not only do you have to place this event where you want it to be triggered from, but you'll also have to use the spawn of passable event detector armor stand and the spawn passable event force passable event detector. And so what this does is if you build up here, the passable event detector must also be in the middle, and because you can't really place two armor stands on top of each other, you have to build a pillar and just have it drop down. So now this is specified as a passable event. But what that means is that when you go to activate this space, you'll first get a prompt that says, do you want to activate it? And you can say yes or no. If you click no, the event doesn't trigger. If you click yes, the event triggers. But something else you can do is you can place the spawn force passable event detector, meaning that every time you go to the space, it'll bypass that yes or no option, and it'll always do the event. And so to use this, you need to make sure you're in the north direction, and you place it in the north top middle of the space. So that'll denote it as a forced passable event, meaning that whenever you go over it, it'll trigger the event without you getting the option to decide if you want to do it or not. So next up, we have the specified TP event. And this one actually works similarly to the TP detector that we set up previously, in that once you place it down, a barrel will be spawned under here, and this is where you can specify the coordinates you want the player to be teleported to when they activate the event. The thing that's different about the specified TP event versus this random TP event is that the random TP event can teleport you to multiple locations, while this one can teleport you to only one location. Now, yes, the random TP event could function the exact same way as this if you only had one possible teleport location. So I guess you won't technically need to use this in that instance, but this is here anyway. And so like all the other events, you just have a barrel here with or a book here with your text in it. So you can access this barrel here to change out the coordinates of where you want the player to be teleported to. And because I've already gone over this with the TB detector previously, I'm not going to do it again. So you can just kind of refer to that, but it works the exact same way. And like I said, we need to make this a passable event because it's on the passable event space. So we'll just build up a pillar here. And we just drop the passable event detector down here, and we're good to go. And I like to place them on this little angle here because then you can kind of tell that you have your event here and your passable event here. So next up, we have the random outcome event. And this one's a pretty fun one in that we can place this down again in the passable event space, and we get our book here. And so what'll happen is, first of all, you'll have some start text here where this event takes a second to actually generate the outcome. So there's some text before that to kind of just be like, hey, it's waiting, generating outcome, so you can put whatever you want there. And then the second page is after it generates an outcome before it tells you what the reward is. And so this barrel is actually the exact same as the reward and punishment pools that we've previously talked about, and that it can have the exact same rewards, except for, like I mentioned earlier, it cannot have the TP to a new location. Only the timed event gets that one, but it can all the other options, and you set it up in the exact same way. The difference with this random outcome event, though, is there's only a single pool, so you can put both punishments and rewards in here if you really wanted to, like I set up here. And this is also where I'm kind of showing you the different stack sizes for the different coin amounts. So we have a 1 coin, a 3 coin, and a 5 coin, a -1 coin, -3 coin, and -5 coins. And because we renamed these to different things, when the outcome is generated, these are not going to stack up on each other like they would if they were all the same name. Meaning that if these all stacked up, it would actually be, looks like +9 coins is only one outcome instead of 1, 3, and 5 is 3 separate outcomes. And so finally, the last major event is the spawn bake event. And this is a hybrid event in that it's both an activated event and a passable event. And as such, this cannot be denoted as a passable event using those armor stands that we've previously shown off. So to use this event, you just place it down where you want it. So a book and barrel will be placed underneath the event space, and so you can use the book to set up the custom text. So this is the text that displays when you pass over the space. This will then tell you kind of how many coins are in the bank. And this is the message that will be displayed when you land on the event and end your turn on it. To then specify how many coins you want the player to give when they pass it, you open up the barrel and you just simply specify the stack size here using pink wool. It can range from 1 to 64. So that means every time I pass it, right now it's set to 5, I'll lose 5 coins. But those coins will be stored in a bank, so that when you land on it, you get all the coins that were deposited in there over the course of a game. Lastly, we have this Roadblock passable event here, and this is strictly a passable event, and you can use this to basically block off different paths and force players to have to pay coins to go that way, as kind of seen on Pirate Dream with like the Thwomp and Thwomp. So to use this, you just place this down where you want one, and this is not placed on a space, this is just placed somewhere along the actual path. A book and barrel will be spawned underneath the event space, so you can use this to specify the custom text. So this is the text that's basically telling you how much coins it'll cost to pass, and this is the text that's displayed if you don't have enough coins to pass. And then you can use this barrel to set how much it costs to pass. And again, this ranges, the cost is the size of the stack of pink wool, so as little as 1 coin and as much as 64 coins. This event is just defaulted to 10 coins. So if you have 10 coins, then you can pay to pass through this wall. And obviously, when you're using this event, you will probably want to put some sort of like barrier block wall here so that you can't actually pass it just for free. But that covers all the events. The final thing I kind of want to mention with the board editor is that this final tab I've briefly already mentioned, but this is the blocks tab. So if you put this in our offhand, this just swaps us to a tab full of a bunch of different blocks that I've been using to build. And how this works is that we can go ahead and if I just put these in my inventory, click the events tab and go back, you'll see that it stores the way that they are in here. So I can just move them around a little bit, kind of just go around, and then you can see they save. And so this will save between leaving and entering the board editor, meaning that you can actually just put a bunch of blocks in here that you want to save for building, so you don't have to constantly re-grab them out every single time. Now I should note, this is not multiplayer compatible, meaning that this set of blocks here is going to be shared amongst everybody who uses the blocks tab. And so if one player messes with it and saves it, another player can open it and mess with it, and then next time you use it, it might be different. So just kind of keep that in mind when using the board editor in multiplayer. With that, that covers all of the tools and features of the board editor. I know this video is long, and that's why it was split up into chapters, and I'm sure I rambled a lot, but you got through it if you made it this far. And so anyway, if you want to leave the board editor, I've shown this several times now, but you simply just put this exit editor in your hotbar, and that takes us back to the lobby. And with that, that covers everything, and so I can't wait to see what kind of boards you guys are able to come up with, and thanks for watching. See you later.